pick your copy and read comprehensively, as I will only be giving you brief of what to expect in the People Daily newspaper. Now, straight to what we are having in the People Daily newspaper today is, on the top story, is 4,000 teachers lack jobs. That is what we are getting, is that 4,000 teachers are unemployed. This comes as Teacher Service Commission boss revealed that one time they had advertised vacancy for only 46,000 tutors, but employers received a staggering 314,117 applications, meaning that those who are not employed are way too big. Now, on the same cover page, we have a story about Gachagua going get staff for Gachagua. That is in page 4 of the People Daily newspaper. Going get staff for the Deputy President, Gachagua. You'll find that story in page 4 of the People Daily newspaper. On the same note, on the cover page, we have Gen Zs overtake Ruto and Raila to top heroes list. That is also a story that is in page 3. We'll be giving you of what is in that story, and you are also advised of that can help prevent breast cancer. That is in page 24. You can also get there and read more comprehensively. Now, today I've tried to cluster what is in the People Daily newspaper majorly in two categories. That is, we'll give you issues to do with education, and also give you brief on issues to do with court matters. That is outside what we give you on the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Apart from that, we'll also give you some of the top stories that are also in the newspaper. Now, we'll also give you brief on the surveys that are conducted in Kenya, so that we get to know what is happening in the Republic of Kenya. Remember to grab your copy, as I'm only going to give you a brief overview of what to expect in the People Daily newspaper. Now, moving into page 2 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, it has been from the survey, a study that has been conducted, it has been revealed and exposed that exposure to lead pollution leaves trail of pain. That is, a study finds that about half of children in poor countries are in contact to a very high level of chemicals. Now, a story by James Kibaso, that is a survey, and the survey indicates that in Kenya, 2.9 million Kenyan children are exposed to high level of lead. The story underlines further that Ministry of Health is looking into review of laws on chemicals that harm the environment, including lead as part of those chemicals. Now, a story by Kibaso is in page 2. It is a survey that says exposure to lead pollution leaves a long trail of pain. You can also grab that and read more extensively in page 2 of the People Daily newspaper. On the same page, we have underage children in sub-Saharan African labor to provide for the family. Now, story by George Kibaso and Liz Muthoni. From the study, emerging statistics now shows that children in sub-Saharan Africa between the age of 5 to 17 years are involved in child labor to fight poverty in their families. Now, that, I believe, is a story worth noting and worth taking into consideration and reading, that over in Africa and in Kenya, many children are undergoing through child labor. And also the story continues to say, and this is at the expense of playing, and going to exploitation of children is urgent, as it robs them of a future, they need to maintain the generational leadership. Now, that's also a survey that indicates that many children in sub-Saharan Africa are laborers. They labor so as they will be able to provide better for their families. That is part of the survey. And also we have a survey on part of the story that is in page 3. That's a poll Gen Z picked as favorite heroes. Now, demographic born between the mid-90s and early 2010 gained prominence during the recent anti-tax protest. Now, according to the survey, which was conducted by Infotrack and other study agencies, shows that a majority of Kenyans now consider Gen Zs who rose to influence in June during the anti-tax protest as national heroes because of their contribution to environmental activism, social justice, technological solution. Now Gen Zs are considered as part of the heroes and they top in the list. Now a survey shows that 23% of Kenyans recognize Gen Zs as demographic cohort according to the millennials as heroes, while Kenyans candidate for African Union Commission chairmanship, Raila Odinga, came in second with 18%. Now the survey indicates that according to the ranking, we see that Gen Zs are considered to be the top heroes, followed by Raila Amolo Odinga, and then followed by Faith Kipyegon. Now they say Raila influence was especially pronounced in Nyanza, where he gained 30%, his political stronghold, but also had significant support in regions such as Western Kenya with 23% and coastal region with 22%. Now that is what is there. Now you can also grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read much of that survey to understand what is happening in, as much as polls are important and as much as polls are there. Now, we have a story, and the story is all about drinking driving major cause of road traffic accident in the coast. Now, story by Ruben Mwambingu state that drink driving is the leading cause of injuries caused by road accident at the Coast General Teaching and Referral Hospital. And it says, particularly in the orthopedic department. According to Dr. Bernard Odhiambo, an orthopedic surgeon at the facility, most of the patients treated for such injuries are victims of accidents involved in three-wheeled taxis, boda-bodas, and tuk-tuk, which account for 74% of cases they handle. And they say most of this happens during Fridays and in weekends, and the patients are brought when they are utterly drunk. Now that's also what you need to get and read more comprehensively to find out what is happening in the world of medical. And you are also advised that please be very careful. Don't drink and drive. Drive when you are sober. Now, we also have a filler story whereby a bank worth 41 million destroyed as magistrate and police supervises. Now, that is a story by David Schultz. And police yesterday presided over the destruction of bank worth 41 million Kenya shillings a week after a man in whose farm the narcotics were found was jailed for 30 years or pay a fine of 50 million Kenyan. Hospital Inclination Facility with Nyahururu Sub-County Deputy Commissioner Bernard Odino and Residence Magistrate Francis Larabi, who had the case at the Nyahururu Courthouse watching. Now that's also a story which I believe it is important for you to grab a copy and read. And also a widow seized in ex-marathoner's death. That's also a story in page 3 of the People Daily newspaper. The late former marathon champion Samson Kandie's widow is among 4 suspects arrested over his gruesome murder. A court yesterday heard the suspect was smoked out the magistrate. Now that's also a story which I believe is very, very important, and you can grab a copy and read. Now remember, on Monday we brought you a story about the plan to increase the term limit of the president and all the 5 elective positions. Now when this matter was taken to this issue is taken to the Senate, and at the same time we realized that there's public participation. But from the story by Masimwai, we learned that Kiambu Senator Karangu Tangwa yesterday became the latest lawmaker to oppose the bill 5 to 7 years, just a day before the window granted for Kenyans to submit their views lapses. Now the senator, Kiambu Senator, becomes the latest person to oppose this motion of increasing of the presidential time limit and all the elective positions. Now let me get also into the matters that are directly towards the impeachment of the deputy president, that is court case, where we have Gachagua blow as court nods to mandate deputy chief justice, that is. Now constitute a panel to hear the petition. Now the story is by Caroline Kubwa. Now the story says Deputy Chief Justice Mwilu is mandated or has the mandate. Now the judge clashed with the Gachagua's legal team when they suggested that the lawyers had been playing the gallery instead of prosecuting their case. Now that is what the judges say, that instead of prosecuting their case, the lawyers aligned to the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua were busy playing gallery. Now they said that on Saturday to hear an application seeking to set aside orders which block the swearing of the Deputy President elect, that is Kithure Kindiki. Now on the same note, we realized that the 3-judge bench, which is led by Eric Ogola, Anthony Mirema, and Fred Mugambi, said that Deputy Chief Justice acted lawfully in constituting the bench, and that she is allowed constitutionally to constitute a 3-judge bench to hear a case. That in cases where Chief Justice is not in a position to do so, then she is in a position to apply the law. Now, and is lack of science teachers. Now, while acknowledging crisis in Teacher Service Commission, acknowledging the crisis of lack of jobs for teachers, Teacher Service Commission revealed that even when they advertise job vacancies, the response for science subject always falls short. Now that's a story by Masimwai in page 5 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, chalking up art of teaching the science, Teacher Service Commission boss regretted that most of the teachers being churned out of the universities and teachers training colleges are only trained in art subjects. Now that's also what is there, and it also says that part of what's causing the crisis in Teacher Service Commission, money for promotion. Now Macharia also announced that they will be promoting about 6,000 teachers with 1 billion Kenya shillings allocated in the 2024-2025 financial year. Now that's a story which I believe it is very important for you to read. Now let me give you a brief of what is in the story. The country is facing an unprecedented crisis in the education sector, with over 400,000 teachers being jobless currently, according to the records from the Teacher Service Commission. Now, that is very important to note that worse still, the teaching profession is facing a serious shortage of science subject teachers, with the majority of tutors major in arts, and that is what the Teacher Service Commission has revealed. I believe that is very important. You can grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read. Now, getting you back to the story on matters to do with Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua impeached. Now, Judas moment for Gachagua as close associates drops him. Now, politicians previously seen to be buddies of embattled deputy sharpened daggers that sank deep in his back. Now, story by People Daily reporter. Now, it is closest allies. Now, this is what the story is all about. It states that for just save a few allies to allies like Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga, MP James Gakuya, that is Embakasi North, Benjamin Gathuri Mwangi, that is Embakasi Central, Karugo Thugwa, Kiambu Senator, and Gathoni Wamuchomba, who defied all the odds to be with the Deputy President. Now, from the story is all that now Deputy President is realizing to stick with him. Now, in the National Assembly, at least 40 MPs from Mount Kenya joined their colleagues from other regions to send him home, while only 19 stood with the Deputy President. Now, as we go on, the story also indicates that the Deputy President is coming. Biblical betrayal of Jesus Christ by one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, embattled former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is now learning how Kenyan politics is full of deceit and betrayal after being ditched by some of his closest allies at the hour of need. Now, this is also likened to what a British politician, Henry John Temple, said. Gachagua is now realizing too late that in politics we have no eternal allies and we also have no enemies in politics. Now, that is all the story is all about. Please grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read more comprehensively. Even as we get in that story, we also realize that in the same page, ex-Muranga governor, that is Wairia, praise Kindiki speak. Now, former Muranga is the best candidate to hold the position of the Deputy President. Now, Wairia argues that despite being from Mount Kenya region, Kindiki has the national face and has the capacity to play the role of deputizing the judgment delivery. Now, from the story by Alphonse Mungau, that is in page 7, the High Court has against 7 people linked to the murder of former Kabete MP George Muchai, his 2 bodyguards and driver. Now, that is also a story that I believe is very important for you to read. Now, the suspect appeared before Milimani Chief Magistrate Lucas Onyina for judgment on 10 counts of violation of violently robbing 6 people, including 2 sisters, Gladys Waithera and Irene Mudhoni, on the same night that they allegedly murdered Muchai. Now, grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read more comprehensively. Matters to do with court still, we find that court bars state from arresting or prosecuting activist Morara. Law Society of Kenya has issued arguing that a section of the penal code related to disturbing peace is unconstitutional. Now that story by Caroline Kubwa is in page 7 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, vague and too broad. The Law Society of Kenya argues that section 95(1)(b) is vague and overboard, especially regarding meaning of or in any other manner creating disturbances in a manner as is likely to cause breach of peace. You can also read that story and get more extensively, but just giving you the highlights of what is in the story is that High Court has blocked the arrest and prosecution of activist Morara Kibaso, allowing him to continue his activities of monitoring the progress of the government projects. Now that is what is in the story and much more. Grab your copy and also read. We also have another filler story. You remember the famous ex-speaker Marende has lost his father, who at a point was also a councillor. You can read the story. It's in page 7 of the People Daily newspaper. That is worth noting. Now let's get to page 10, where we have quotes of the day. Farming into a reliable source of income by addressing challenges that hinder agricultural productivity. That is County Agriculture Executive Roman Shearer from Kwale. And we also have another quote of the day, that is, though the national government constitutes police post in the area which require police officers to start operating, that is Emuhea MP Ombok Mulemba says that. And also we have another quote from Coast Referral Hospital orthopedic surgeon, that is Dr. Bernard Odhiambo. He says, in many they were the first, they were when they were first arrived at the hospital, it's only after they wake up that they realize they are in the hospital. Now that is a caution that we be very careful. We should not actually drink and drive for the safety of your own life and for the safety of life of others. And we have the cartoon of the day. Now cartoon of the day, we have an image there, another hot pill. Kenyans are yet to receive another hot pill. That is, the hot pill is the presidential ×7. You can also check that and also read some feature stories which are also there. Now let me give you thought of the day. When buying and selling are controlled by legislation, the first thing to be bought and sold are legislatures. Now that's thought of the day, that when buying and selling are controlled by legislation, the first thing to be bought and sold are legislators. That is by P.J.O. Roque. Now you can also read that. That's a thought of the day. Come to think of that. Now as we move further with the stories, we bring you a brief on what is happening in more universities now. Vice and Low Enrollment Center, the university closure. Now the University of declining student enrollment and chronism are some of the causes of the shutting down of Moi University in Eldoret. Now you can grab a copy and read more extensively on what is happening on matters to do with the closure and shutting down of Moi University. Now as we move, I said earlier that I'll be taking you into matters of court, matters of politics, and matters of education. Now moving into court matters also in the same page 12. Now there are 3 in court over attack on a husband's snatcher. A story by Winston Cheresemi. Now 3 women linked to brutal assault of a single woman have been arrested and taken to court in Eldoret. The victim, aged 24, was reportedly assaulted by 3 housewives who accused her of having an illicit love affair with their husbands. Now, on that note, you realize that the story says the suspects were identified as Monica Jeptun, Joyce Jeroboam, and Caroline Jerotich. They were charged with sexual assault contrary to the Sexual Offense Act of 2007, and it has been said that they are also they are said to have cornered the woman on her way to a local market, assaulted her, and subjected her to inhuman act of inserting papers into her private parts, as they branded her a husband snatcher. Grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read more comprehensively on that. Now, we also taking to issues with the mining. Joho now says rogue miners made billions, did not pay tax. Now, that's what Joho is now saying. Now, a story by Ruben Mwambingu is on page 12 of the People Daily newspaper. Now, the Cabinet Secretary for Mining, Blue Economy, and crippling effects of inadequate funding in his ministry, warning that lack of resources is stalling efforts to combat illegal mining. Now, that's a story which I believe is also important. Please grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read. Now, as promises, trusts lost crippling governance in Kenya. Now, that is in page 14 of the People Daily newspaper. Dispute amongst citizens over ruling coalition, unrealistic policies reaching boiling point with Gen Z's demonstration. Now, a story by some. Now, country ruling downhill. We have is that President William Ruto has been confronted with tougher period in office than any of his predecessors, to extent that he has been forced to drop some of the decisions. Now, that is part of what is in the story. It continues to say, independent government agency is now raising concern that there exists growing distrust among Kenyans and current government over new developments in the governance system. Now, that's also a survey that you now to read. Now, 2 years into the Kenya Kwanza administration, the country has been thrown into a season of high-octane politics that threaten to cripple government operations. Now, you can also read, this year President William Ruto has been confronted that to the extent that he has been forced to drop some of the decisions he has made himself. He has to make himself. Now, that is part of the story which I believe is very important. Please grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper. And in 129 million fraud case to proceed next month, a story by Alphonse Mungau. A Nairobi court has ordered a criminal case where a Congolese national charged with conspiracy to obtain 129 million Kenyan shillings through a... Now, that is part of the story making court case stories in the People Daily newspaper. Please grab your copy and read more comprehensively. Now, on matters to do with business, East African Community Chief less optimistic about economic growth. Now, KPMG report says 60% of East African company CEOs feel confident in growth prospect, a 22% decline from 82% last year. That's a story by Vanessa Sandra. Please read more extensively. It says, despite these challenges, majority of CEOs have confidence in the long-term viability of their business models and ability to generate sustainable growth. Also, it said At the back of this, 32% of CEOs cited that organic growth was most important strategy for achieving their organization's growth objectives. You can grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read that much comprehensively. Now, COMESA issues warning on faulty US-made devices. That is on matters to do with phone. If you're using phone, please grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read more extensively. Now, Kenyans are advised on real estate sector investment. Now, that story is in page 17 of the People Daily newspaper. It says one of the in residential property marked leveraging money market fund and SACCO, says report by Knight Frank, a story by Cynthia Tuo. Please grab a copy. If you want to invest, you are advised the best place to invest is on matters to do with estate investment, real estate investment. Read that and much more. Now, Besigo secures 5.4 billion funding to deliver more e-bus in East Africa. Now, that's a report which I believe is also important. You can grab a copy and read more extensively. Now, consumers to pay more for unused electricity in 2023, says the report. Now, that's also what you have to read. A total system loss increased from 23.9% the previous year to 23.47%. That is matters to do with electricity. Told to file returns or lose permit. No lifting returns, no filing returns will result in firm being declared as not conducting business in Kenya. Read that and more extensively. Let me jump very fast to give you matters to do with sports, which I believe you have been waiting to hear much and much more. Now, Eliud Owalo, Sports PS tomb and Sports PS tomb to lead Oduor's funerals in Kakamega. You can also read that story by Barry Silla. Family of Kenyan football legend Austin Makamu Oduor has appointed former ICT Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo as the chairman of the National Funeral Organizing Committee ahead of legend's burial slated for Saturday, that is November 9th, at his own in Makunga village, Navaholo constituency in Kakamega County. Now, also need to read that and more extensively. Southern Bypass 6 road to close for Standard Chart Nairobi Marathon. That also what you need to do. Bankers retain account. Gor Mahia's perfect start halts KCB, prove their mantle, denying the champion spot atop to the league. Now, that's a story that you can read more comprehensively. The story says Gor Mahia dropped their first point of the season following a 0-all score against KCB in Football Kenya Federation Premier League fixture at Dandora Stadium on Wednesday. Now, that is what you need to read and more extensively get to that story and read more on matters to do with the sports. It is now official. Thank you, Glasgow. A Scottish city, Glasgow, confirmed hosting of 26 Commonwealth Games. It is now confirmed. You can read that and more comprehensively. Now, moving far and wide, beaming with confidence. It is a learning mission for coach Cheche ahead of Junior Starlets final World Cup group game against Mexico. We have to really appreciate the Junior Starlets for what they have been doing. Now, a story by Vincent Voyo. You can also read that story and much more on the page. Now, Vini, credible Brazilian Vinicius Junior's unstoppable hat-trick solidifies his place as favorite for this year's Ballon d'Or recognition. You can also read that. It is very important to read that story. And that marked the end of what we had for you in the People Daily newspaper. Remember, People Daily newspaper is a free newspaper. Grab your copy and read more comprehensively. Sorry, I failed to inform you viewers that today we are not able to be with my co-host, that is Lennox Odede, because he is unwell. We hope and wish him quick recovery so that we be with him tomorrow here to give you more comprehensively on what's happening in the People Daily newspaper at the brief. Thank you so much for keeping tuned to BTV Kenya. That is the vibrant. We said yesterday we started giving the news, and yesterday we gave you news at 9, and today we will be here to give you more of the news as they happen. Please keep tuned to BTV and let us know where we are reaching you from. Thank you for subscribing.